This is the sixth and final video in the How to Apply to Penn State video series on the Speaking of Fairview YouTube channel.
I was before. So the type of degree that I'm looking for is going to be a baccalaureate. So that's going to be a 4-year degree. That's just, you can choose, obviously, depending on what you want, but that's what I'm going to be doing for this video. And then my starting semester will be, so why would you choose summer 2021 versus fall 2021, and what are the differences?
Okay, so depending on when you want to get started at Penn State, some students will want to get started in a summer session, which at Penn State usually begins at the end of June, continues through the second week of August. Our students get about a week off, and then the fall semester starts about a week later. Some of the advantages of summer are, if you're at University Park, it's a smaller setting, less students on campus. In my opinion, it's a great way to get acclimated to the University Park campus. You get 6 credits out of the way early. So I think there are some benefits. There's a wonderful program at University Park called LEAP, which is a learning experience course. And in that program, you basically pick a topic and you're in a cohort of 25 students. You'll take your 2 classes together and it will show you according to the LEAP that you're involved in. So for instance, if you're interested in maybe a medical career, you may take a LEAP that would be either an English or your speech communications course paired with, let's say, a biochemistry and molecular biology course. 3 credits for each. You take your courses together, and you have a peer mentor in that LEAP. You do some special activities with the other students in that group. It's sort of a formalized program over the summer. Not required, but a really nice option. At Penn State Behrend and some of the campuses, we offer a program called PASS, or at Behrend for Erie County students, we call it Accelerate, which is a Pathways to Academic Summer. Students take 2 classes. And with that program, we're doing a lot with developing college success skills. So there's a math academy associated with it. You'll take seminars on study skills, time management, how to use a college library, information on how to seek out scholarships. It's a wonderful opportunity. So depending on your level of interest, there are some really nice summer options for you.
All right. So, but for my sake, for right now, I'm just going to click fall 2021 and click save and continue. And then I will pick a major. So I'm going to search by alphabetic listing, excuse me. So can you see this drop down or no?
We cannot.
Okay, so there's a drop down of a bunch of majors by alphabet. And so I am going to choose just a random major. So I am an engineering major. So I am going to be an engineering Bachelor of Science Applied Materials. So that's going to be the major that I want to major in. And my ending campus, it says there's a drop down. It just says Du Bois.
And this is the program, program you selected is only available at Penn State Du Bois. It is not available at any other Penn State campus. So if you go in and you list, go back up to your intended major and maybe just choose an undecided engineering major.
Okay, that probably makes more sense.
I think this is a great point. And if you find that that's in fact the case, then it's helpful to know. The application does a great job of sort of guiding you through the process. If you were to have listed plastics engineering technology, you would find Behrend as the only ending campus for that program. You would also find it as the only starting campus for that program because it is only available at Penn State Behrend as a 4-year program.
All right, and then so it says ending campus, University Park or Behrend. So I chose University Park, but for my starting campus, if I want to start at University Park, I'll click University Park. But correct. should I so that's what I'm going to choose now. Okay, so then I'm going to click next. And it says an alternate starting campus.
We will consider students for their first choice of campus. If for some reason you don't qualify and meet the admission criteria for that campus, we want to have a second choice so that we can say, okay, we're really sorry we're not able to offer you University Park, but great news, we would welcome you to Penn State. We're happy to be able to make an offer to Penn State Barron.
All right. And then so my alternative starting campus is going to be Barron, and then the optional summer start at University Park, which you just talked about. So you can click yes or no.
Right. And I want to just explain what that means. So if you apply to University Park for the fall semester, which is what you have indicated as part of this application, if for some reason you don't meet the admission criteria for University Park for the fall semester, if you answer yes to this question, we will consider you at a slightly lower admission criteria for University Park. If you meet the summer admission criteria, then we'll make that offer. It means that you would then be required to participate in the summer session at University Park in order to be able to continue on with the rest of the class in the fall.
All right, so I'm going to yes
to consider that.
Okay, so then I'm going to click save because I am satisfied with my my choices, and then it'll show up right here as for what I have selected. And so then there's special notes and requirements that you can review for each specific major. And then I'm going to click save and continue. And then additional information, would I like to be considered for early action? So early action versus regular decision. What are your deadlines for that?
So in a typical year, it would be November 1st for early action. Early action is non-binding. It does not commit you to attend Penn State. It basically just means we will accelerate our response process. So if you apply by November 1st, you will hear back from us by December 24th.
Wonderful. Okay, so now that deadline has passed, but if you apply early enough, you can click yes. And have I submitted an application, paid the application fee for the undergraduate admission to Penn State in the last 12 months? So that's a no. And then, are you interested in completing the additional application to the Schreier Honors College? So up here it talks about the Schreier Honors College. So you can either click yes or no depending on what you want. So for right now, I'm going to click no.
If you were to click yes on that question, it will open up, if we think back to the My Penn State account, it will open up a button that indicates an application for the Schreier Honors College. It is a separate supplemental application. So in order to gain access to that application, you do need to check yes here. And that will bring up a blue button, and then you'll need to take additional steps through My Penn State.
And there's an earlier deadline on that application. You cannot apply to Schreier Honors at any time. Like I can't decide in March I'm going to apply. Is that correct?
That's correct. Right. It's currently the deadline is November 1st. There's a first round deadline. If you're interested in an alumni interview, you would apply by November 1st for Schreier. If you are not interested in that interview, then the final application deadline for Schreier Honors College this year is December 4th. That varies a little bit from year to year, so you'll want to check their website based on the year you're applying.
Okay. And then are any siblings also applying for undergraduate admission to Penn State this year? So I do not have any siblings that are applying this year, so I'm going to say no. Are any of your immediate relatives full-time employees or any of your immediate relatives Penn State alumni? So I do not have any Penn State alumni or any family members working at Penn State, but if you do, you just click off each person that does work there or has gone there. And then here you can read the above paragraphs. Make sure you read all of the things on the application again. But this question is, have you been dropped for poor scholarship to Penn State or any institution? And I'm going to say no. Have I been dismissed or suspended for disciplinary reasons from secondary school? No. Is there an unresolved or pending disciplinary matter at a prior institution? No. Within the past 5 years, not including any of these things, have you entered a plea of guilty or no contest to one or more criminal offenses? And you can read all of these things and answer based off of what applies to you. And then you press save and continue. And then here it asks you to list your activities. Okay, so I guess you would write in, like, if you played baseball, you would write baseball, and then you would describe a little bit about the activity.
You can, although you have a limit of 500 words. So depending on how long your list is, if you were playing baseball, you might indicate varsity baseball or community league baseball. Those are the kinds of things. Now, if you have an activity that may not be quite as clear as to what's involved, maybe you want to give a description. You can also list work experience, community involvement, community service, church activities, those sorts of things here.
All right, so you can fill that out. Each person has a specific activities, so I can't tell you exactly what to write, but again, write like varsity baseball. And would it be helpful if you wrote like if you were captain, or if you were like if you won the state team or something? Yeah. All right, and then save and continue that. And then this is your personal statement. And for the question for this year, it asks, please tell us something about yourself, your experiences or activities that you believe would positively reflect on your ability to succeed at Penn State. This is your opportunity to tell us something about yourself that is not already reflected in your application or academic records. And this year, a possibility for your statement could be to write about the societal disruptions that we experience with COVID-19 and the potential for deep and lasting impact. You might use the space to describe how you and your family members have been impacted by the pandemic in terms of health, safety, family circumstances, future aspirations, dreams of your future, or educational plans. And it says it is not required, but is highly encouraged. And as a student, when a college says that, I definitely recommend writing something, especially if it says optional. Normally, colleges, it is truly optional, but it helps always. It doesn't hurt. Okay, so let's say I typed, it has to be 500 words or fewer. So let's say I typed a personal statement, and I will save and continue once that is how I like it. Most of the time, I would recommend typing it on a Google Docs and then pasting it in there, so that way it saves and you always have it and you can edit it a bunch of times and things like that. And the last section is review and submit. So Penn State is a test optional institution, and they have a test optional policy that you could click here if you want to view that. But do I want my SAT or ACT scores included in the review of my application? So I'm going to click for this year, no. But you could also click yes. Really, it's up to you.
Can I interrupt you for just a minute? I want to just talk about this for just a minute. This is the first year that Penn State has ever been test optional. And the decision was made initially because of COVID. We know how difficult it is for students to find opportunities to complete an SAT or ACT. And we're really trying to meet students where they are in this really challenging time that we're facing. We actually do not have guidance yet on whether we will be test optional next year. We are in the process of looking at that and making that determination. So for students applying in subsequent years for fall of 22 and beyond, this is a question that may change. We may go back to requiring SATs. I think it's sort of a stay tuned, check in with us, watch our website, talk to your guidance counselors. So this is absolutely appropriate for students applying for fall of 2021. But again, it's kind of a stay tuned as we move forward.
Yes. Okay. So that was going to be what I asked you next. So that's wonderful to learn more about whether it is going to be test optional or not. So I know this year it's been so crazy, and a lot of schools will be on test optional this year, but I know for each class continuing, we'll have to check with the website. And then I acknowledge that my test optional answer can only be changed by the following process outlined in my Penn State account and clicking the change my test optional answer button or by emailing the admissions at psu.edu using the subject line change test optional answer before an admission decision is made by the university. So I'm going to click yes. So I'm going to click save and continue. Okay. So it says review my application. So this is where I can review all of the things that I stated on that we already typed in, all of my answers to all of my questions, and make sure they are all correct. And make sure you double check this really in depth. And then I'm going to click save and continue. And then it asks that you sign your application. So I would highly recommend that you read this entire thing. I've already applied, so I have already read this whole thing, and I will initial with my first, my middle, and my last name initials.
Okay.
And then I will.
Oh, I'm sorry, Izzy. So before you go, I want to just make a point. I mentioned early on that I am able to waive an application fee for students using My Penn State. Before a student gets to the end here and submits their application, you would need to reach out to me. You can do that through the guidance office. You can contact our office directly. You can pick up the phone and call the Penn State Barron Admissions Office. You would want to work specifically through Penn State Barron, even though you're not necessarily applying to Penn State Barron. It can be just the general Penn State application. But if you have been to visit Barron, we are able to do that. However, we have to do it before you submit the application and before you submit a credit card payment. So now would be a great time to do that, but you can really do it anytime after you complete your My Penn State account.
Okay, well, that is wonderful. Thank you for letting me know. So again, if you have everything, if you press save and continue after every step, then it should, if you wanted to call tomorrow or if they're not open right now, you can call and then just come back and everything should be saved for you. And then, so let's pretend I already called and got my application fee waived. So I'll click save and continue. Ooh. So it'll say start payment, and I'm not actually applying, but like if you have the fee waiver, I think it'll show up as something different. Like you won't have to pay the application fee.
Correct. It will actually bypass this page.
Oh, okay. Well, and then after that, do you know what the page is after that? Because I think
the next page will actually be your submit button. And so once you hit this start payment, it will ask you for all of your credit card information. You'll note that it is a secure site. You can submit that. And then it will ask you, are you ready to submit your application? If you have a fee waiver, it will say, are you comfortable with this? Are you ready to submit your Penn State application? You'll want to make sure that you hit submit at that point.
All right. So then you hit submit and then you just wait for your Penn State decision. So that's exciting.
Yeah. So I want to just talk about that Penn State decision. You'll want to, the day after you submit your Penn State application, go back to your My Penn State account. And there will be a checklist that appears on My Penn State the next day. If you are test optional, it will not list your SATs there, but it will say, it will have self-reported academic record. If there's a check mark next to it, it means we've received that and everything is good. If you don't see a check mark there, you're gonna want to check in with us and just say, hey, what's going on? I don't see that. I thought I had submitted it. Occasionally there can be a glitch at our end. Maybe you didn't submit it the way you thought you had. We can work through those issues with you. Once your checklist is complete, then you'll want to watch your My Penn State account moving forward, because that's the first place that will notify you of our Penn State decision. There's usually a notification in My Penn State about 5 to 7 days before you'll receive anything in the mail.
All right.
That's good to know.
And I wanted to thank you so much for joining me today and walking me through how to apply to Penn State and being on my podcast. I really appreciate it. I know that a lot of Fairview kids will appreciate it as well.
Absolutely.
I think I appreciate it too. I think I will go back and watch some of this video on some of the things we talked about today.
And a lot of the questions answered were as a student, I know that there are questions that really high school students really do have, and like these are real concerns. So I think that was a wonderful example, and I just want to say thank you, and thank you so much for your time.
Very welcome. Thanks so much. And I guess just to kind of wrap it up, if you don't mind, if students have questions beyond what we've covered here or have individual situations, we are always happy to work with you individually. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for. And so we look forward to working with many of you down the road.
Finally, I would like to say that I hope all of you have decided to apply to Penn State now because of this video, and you know how to after following all these steps. I would like to remind you that Mrs. Jensen and Mrs. Grimm were a huge help in this podcast, and that when doing your college admissions decisions, you should make sure you read all of the questions and all of the material in depth to make sure that you don't miss anything when applying to colleges. I would like to thank the guests. A special thank you to Mrs. Jensen and Mrs. Grimm for being on my video and teaching me a little bit about how to apply to Penn State. I would like to thank you for listening to this episode of Speaking of Fairview. I hope you'll join us again for our next episode and learn more about Fairview High School and the Tigers. I would like to thank Dr. Lame, principal of FHS, Mr. Bell, assistant principal, and Mrs. Stevens, our public speaking teacher, for supporting my endeavors with this video. Thank you, and we are Penn State.